Tsuredure Children is an anime with a name I'm almost definitely going to say wrong and differently every time I say it for this video. Beyond that, it's an adaptation of a manga that is, in short, high school kids struggling to ask each other out, and it's a comedy. It's basically following a handful of couples as they experience different wacky scenarios in bite-sized vignettes. Each episode focuses on 4 adventures across the 10-ish different couples, meaning you don't see each pair every episode. And it was that premise that got me interested in watching Tsuredure Children in the first place. With so many couples and the overtly comedic tone, this allowed for way more exploration into the trials and tribulations of dating than a more standard rom-com would allow. One couple could handle the awkward will they won't they stuff, while another could be making gags about how do I tell my girlfriend I don't want to share my food with her because she always eats too much of it. And at first it was kinda like that. The first 5 episodes are really fun as the different kids face a wide array of romantic mishaps. From Saki telling Haruhiko that she'll tell him that she likes him the next day when she's more confident, to Kana and Chiaki awkwardly figuring out if and how they want to have sex, the show handles its premise really well. No two couples feel the same, and it got me invested in their relationships while also keeping up its comedic tone. But once you hit episode 6, it starts to go down, and to help make my point, we have to start narrowing our focus. So let's take a look at what each pair gets up to across the season, starting with the ones with the least amount of screen time, up to the ones who get our focus the most. She explains that she's confessed to him a lot, but never seriously. However, today is his last day as he's about to graduate, and so she confesses for real and he accepts her. That's it. These two are really just the cute ending for episode 1. However, this does set the precedent that couples will actually be formed, and it won't just be floundering around confessions for everyone, which is nice. She also has a super cute design, but there's not much else to say about these two without also taking a look at the next couple. With the start of a new year, Kaga gets conscripted into the Astrology Club after forming a crush on Sasahara-senpai. His childhood friend Nanase is also in the club because she's actually interested in the subject. After yelling at Kaga about how he's ignored her since middle school, she then confesses her feelings for him and kisses him. The two are embarrassed by the event but seem to be okay with figuring out their feelings. And again, that's it. These two get basically no screen time, and the entire Astrology Club completely vanishes after episode 5, which is a shame because there's a lot they could have explored with these three. Sasahara prying for details about the two's kiss, Kaga figuring out his feelings for Nanase versus his feelings for his senpai. How would those feelings change once he learns of Sasahara's boyfriend? But instead, none of those interesting topics are seen, and the group disappear without a trace. And it's also a shame because these three have hands down the most interesting designs of the cast. The unique looks of the Astro Club have to fall to the wayside for a million boys with short messy hair and girls with long straight hair. Kazuko falls for the beautiful senpai, often referred to by himself as the date master, and basically all that happens is she asks to be his girlfriend and he rejects her. These two's plot is the most substanceless of the show, using its time instead for more wacky slapstick than real relationship development. And that extreme physical comedy can be some of the funniest stuff from the show, but it's unfortunately ruined by Shinichi's entire character. The Date Master shows up a couple of times to offer advice for other characters, and that was fine for his first appearance that ended up playing into the slapstick gag. But every other time he's on screen, it's just a lot of him talking about himself and how amazing he is. The animation's not really good enough to sell his excellence, instead ending up just looking cheap and boring. His scenes all drag on and on as he insists on lip flapping for fucking ever. It's not like he ruins the show, but these two just feel like a waste of time for the majority of their inclusion. Chio asks Takayo to have lunch with her, which baffles the boy because he believes he's so ugly no girl would ever be interested in him. Throughout their date, Takayo's super nervous, but she says that he's nice and funny and confesses to liking him. She later invites him to the movies, which he agrees to go to, and we get introduced to his friend Tomomichi. Tomomichi believes all women are pigs who deserve ire due to how they've treated him and Takayo for being ugly. Takayo at first tries to lie about his date for the movies, but eventually tells his friend the truth, wherein Tomomichi implores Takayo to pursue such a fine maiden who wouldn't be averse to his ugliness, happy that his friend has found a girl who likes him. Later on, Tomomichi is invited by Takeo to meet up behind the school, but is surprised to see Chiyo there as well. Takeo was nervous about being alone. She gives Takeo pudding, saying she'd made too much, but he insists he doesn't deserve it. Tomomichi tells his friend that he's being dumb and that she clearly made it for him, so be cool and accept her gift. She promises to make Tomomichi some too next time. Honestly, this collection of people is one of the best examples this show has. Takeo's insistence on believing Chiyo's out of his league leads to really cute interactions between the two, and funny reactions from him specifically. Tomomichi is also a great inclusion. His initial hostility towards women was at first concerning, but seeing how happily he changes his tune once he learns his friend has found a girl who doesn't care about his appearance is really cool, and him playing the wingman for his hapless friend with the pudding was just really nice to see. It's also a nice message that just because you get bullied for your looks or you believe yourself to be ugly or undesirable, that's not really the case. Chiyo doesn't mind how Takeo looks, and spoiler, Tomomichi ends up finding a girlfriend in the manga as well. Don't let your negative opinions about your looks keep you from knowing that someone out there thinks you look great, regardless of whatever perceived flaws you may think be an issue.
People take one look at me and go, "Ah, help, run! A big, stupid, ugly ogre."
These three are sweet and funny, and honestly, I can't find a thing to complain about for their sections. Yuki likes to tease Jun by telling him that she loves him and then immediately saying she's joking. She technically confesses, but he struggles to answer her as he can't tell if she's being serious or not. Jun's little sister joins the school and the normal "I hate the girl who would take away my big brother" shtick you'd expect from that ensues. Months have passed and he still hasn't accepted or denied her confession. She says that she assumes he'll reject her, but is then clearly teasing, not really believing that. His little sister gets into his phone and tries to ruin their relationship, but Yuki catches on that it's his sister on the other end, and instead teases her by saying she's pregnant with Jun's child. More of the "I love you, just kidding" stuff ensues, and she insists that she can't say it seriously, she'd have to prove it some other way. She gets him to close his eyes, and then it's not clear whether or not she really kisses him or tricks him with her fingers. These two are interesting in that they basically don't change at all throughout the show. From second one, Yuki makes it clear she likes Jun, and he obviously reciprocates those feelings. And that's it. Despite his refusal to actually confess himself or to answer her confession, the two are clearly close. Obviously friends who seem comfortable hanging out and texting each other regularly. There's really no drama to be had with them outside of his little sister's hatred for Yuki. I do think the couple is at their most interesting when Jun's sister is in the mix, as otherwise it's a lot of talking back and forth while getting nowhere. I wish we'd seen the two hanging out casually more, rather than exclusively focusing on their reluctance to make an official title of boyfriend/girlfriend. I wouldn't call them a waste of time for sure, but I do wish we'd gotten to see the two actually do more. Ryoko gets caught smoking by the student council president, Akagi, who uses this as leverage for a favor, saying he's struggling to understand love, he'd be willing to pay money for her to have sex with him. She's clearly nervous throughout the interaction as he generally makes her uncomfortable and insults her, and he then manages to spin his words as him agreeing to be her boyfriend. Pissed that Akagi is making her quit smoking as long as they're dating, she tells him they never actually made it official. He mentions that he's noticed how she doesn't have friends, and how she would rather stick around after school smoking than go home. He explains that he thinks she would sleep with anyone who talked to her, and then insults her some more. He says he wants to sleep with her and that he probably likes her, and asks if she'll date him. She nervously says no but, and he tells her to say yes and then kisses her. He's helping her study, she asks why he wants to go out with her, he insists she use a nickname for him, and refuses to answer until she complies. He then ignores her question and insists on just kissing her more. He says he likes her face, and when asked about her personality, he just keeps saying she's cute. He says it's a possibility he would leave her for a cuter girl if one showed up. She's clearly upset that he only seems to care about her body. He then continues to list her negatives, which upsets her, but then says he likes her short temper and personality. The two are studying in the library since they get distracted too much while at home, but he still wants to fool around with her boobs. She's upset about the request in such a public area, and he says she'll say yes if he's persistent. She's embarrassed and angry by his insistence that she's that easy. After he offers a trade of a hug in exchange to squeeze her boobs, she agrees, but then he tells her he never really intended to feel her up at the library. He then implies that he's holding back by not constantly convincing her to let him play with her body. While studying for exams, Ryoko has a flashback of her mom being surprised by her new passion for college and how they don't have money to afford it. She's worried she's not good enough, but is determined to do well on her tests. Akagi is also worried for her, but knows that she must handle this alone. Despite her worries, she seems to do okay on her test and has the support of her classmates and teacher. Okay, so this is fucking gross. Akagi is constantly ignoring Ryoko, insulting her and demeaning her, and insisting that he only wants her body. She's clearly bashful about the subject of intimacy, and he uses that as a weapon to force their relationship into effect. Like, there's no other way I can look at this than to say Akagi's abusive. Every scene of these two has Ryoko seemingly fighting to be heard or respected at all, as if she can't see that just because Akagi makes her nervous doesn't also mean he makes her happy. The way Akagi behaves makes me feel repulsed, especially at the idea that this was considered romantic. It's implied these two are having sex on the regs, and yet Ryoko is still a nervous, bumbling wreck around him. They're always fighting, he's always putting her down or making her uncomfortable. This in no way seems to be a healthy relationship. And it's also lame because these two are the only ones who handle such mature issues. There's a lot they could have done with these two's more adult relationship, but instead every scene is her being embarrassed and him being horny. That's it. The best these two get is their last appearance, as his being worried for her is the only time it actually seems like he cares about Ryoko. Learning they've been studying so much so she can go to college with him is sweet, and Ryoko's classmates supporting her decision to take school seriously is enough to get me misty-eyed. But what's a shame is it's all attached to the most dysfunctional, abuse-riddled couple of the show. Barring episode 11, all of their scenes are a nightmare to sit through, as you watch a girl get taken advantage of and belittled by a guy who only cares about using her body. Saki asks to talk to Haruhiko after school. After 10 minutes of not drumming up the courage to confess to him, she asks if she can talk to him the next day, saying she'll confess then. Months later, she still hasn't confessed, and neither has he, apparently, and she decides to do it over text. She frets about how exactly to word her text, he frets about his wording as well, as he considers confessing during the conversation. Finally, he says he'll tell her something important after school the next day, since it'd be lame to do it over text. At the same time, she confesses over text. After the texting mishap, the two haven't spoken for a while. Haruhiko gets some advice from the date master, but then apparently doesn't do anything. It's now a month later, and the two still haven't talked. The two finally awkwardly apologize. She then tries to play it cool and say she'd rather just be friends, even though both of them clearly want to date, and they agree to just be friends. Exams time, and she doesn't have extra pencil lead. She doesn't want to ask him for any, as that may reveal the crush she has on him. She then runs out of lead, and he gives her some. This is where we really start to see Tsuredure Children's biggest problem. This thing where the show just pretends its own scenes never happened. Haruhiko knows Saki's planning on confessing in their first scene, and she basically does by saying, "I'll tell you I like you tomorrow," and yet that gets ignored for the two to fret over confessing via text. And then, despite her text saying, "Let's date," and his text saying, "I want to ask you out tomorrow after school," the two implode and pretend neither of them knows that the other has feelings for them. Like, it's tough, cause watching the two panic over their texts is super cute and relatable, but it's infuriating that the two completely forget their own actions to force the following scenes of the two awkwardly not knowing how to talk to each other. Like, I guess it's accurate for teens to not really know how to handle such an awkward experience properly, but the two become impossible to understand for the drama to ensue. Why does she go out of her way to avoid him after he tries to talk to her after the text, including ignoring his follow-up texts, despite wanting to still date him? Starting with episode 7, the two are stuck in this limbo of both of them knowing that they like each other, but insisting on pretending otherwise for no reason. Their relationship is reductive, moving backwards to what should have been the start of their journey, stripping it of any interest. Watching the two muster up the courage to send their perfect text was interesting. Watching them awkwardly ignore all of their confessions and say, "Let's just be friends now, I guess," is dumb and boring. Ayaka likes Goda, but he thinks she's uncomfortable around him due to how she avoids him. She loses a contact, asks him to help, and kinda ends up confessing as Goda struggles to catch up on what just happened. After a little time has passed, Goda seems to be almost avoiding Ayaka, causing her to believe he wants to break up. He admits that he actually is new to all this stuff and doesn't quite know how or when to do things. He asks to hold her hand on the way home. A bit later, she asks for him to say, "I love you," but he misunderstands and thinks she wants him to talk about his feelings more. She clarifies what she wants, but then decides against it, since she's making him say it so it wouldn't be sincere. He says it anyway, and honestly. She wants to talk to him more, be possessive of him, to cuddle with him, but thinks he'd consider that a pain. She tries engaging with him more. He admits that he thought she didn't want to cuddle since she's so quiet, and she says she wouldn't have held back if he'd told her he didn't mind it earlier. He then kisses her, and she coughs in the middle of it. Ayaka's upset about that, but Goda didn't seem to notice and instead asks if she'd like to try again. She wants to try kissing again to get it right after coughing the first time. I guess they just didn't do it more on the day. He worries that she's upset that he's moved too fast. Finally, Ayaka says she wants to kiss again, but he continues to believe that he moved too fast, and that she didn't like that. She tries cuddling with him in an attempt to, set the mood better. He continues to not understand, and nothing happens. Ayaka is jealous of other girls talking to and hanging out with Goda, but doesn't say anything. Goda can't figure out why she's so upset at him. He asks her about it, but she refuses to explain why she's been upset, saying it'll just annoy him and make him hate her. He, again, insists, and she shares how she's jealous and how much she wants his attention, which he is fine with. These two are dumb. They just never talk to each other. It's just a ring of miscommunication due to neither of them wanting to actually speak, but would rather just hope the other one becomes a mind reader suddenly. Even when they actually do try talking to each other, they just ignore that and pretend they can't understand. Ayaka outright says, "Let's kiss again," but Goda refuses to acknowledge that to instead insist on his headcanon of, "Ayaka is upset I moved too fast." This sort of stuck in their own head, too nervous to voice concerns thing worked at the beginning of their relationship, but shouldn't be the only thing they do. These two are the talk of the town, the new couple other characters gossip about, and yet the two constantly refuse to actually voice any concerns to each other, and these two end up with a lot of episodes back to back, more than any other pair. They technically grow from awkwardly asking to hold hands to kissing in the park, but they never truly develop out of their initial bashfulness that comes with a new relationship. They still behave like they don't know each other all that well, even though they've been dating for months. Kana explains to her friend that she and Chiaki have been dating for a year, but haven't even kissed. On their way home, she learns that he thought her confession was one of their comedy routines and didn't think she was being serious. He says he'd like to actually date for real. At his place for studying, Kana finds Chiaki's porn stash, which quickly turns into them talking about having sex. Both are clearly nervous, but interested. However, with his mom accidentally interrupting, the two call it quits. After the other night where nothing happened, neither has made a move since. He talks about a new comedy routine for the two and tries to kiss her, but fails. The two get flustered, he tries to keep the routine going, trying again to kiss her, but chickens out. The two talk about how they still haven't done anything, it's been months. She's mad that he keeps chickening out, so he tries to kiss her again, but messes up due to the weird angle. They say they should try again, but give up for now, so as to not draw more attention to themselves. Kana and Chiaki catch Ayaka and Goda kissing in the park, prompting the two to argue over whose fault it is that they haven't kissed yet. They agree to kiss, but then get embarrassed when the others spot them. Later, Chiaki invites Kana over when the rest of his family are away. Kana isn't happy that this implies he's looking to do more than just kiss. Despite both of them making it clear that they want to kiss each other and multiple failed attempts, suddenly the two are barely able to talk to each other due to nerves. He pretends to get drunk to, make being assertive okay? She says she doesn't want to kiss him if he's inebriated. He reveals he's faking it and kisses her. This all really upsets Kana and she leaves, breaking up with him. Kana's refusing to talk to Chiaki, who tries to reach out by texting her. She decides that if he apologizes one more time, she'll forgive him, but she drops her phone in the tub before she can read his text. She then worries he's gonna give up on her as she still loves him. Mom fixes her phone, he tries calling, but her phone dies again. It's the last day before break and the two still aren't talking despite her phone being okay now. Chiaki saves her from a rogue ball at the sporting event. They argue a bit, but then she cheers for him afterwards. She tries texting him, but now his phone is out of battery. He tells tells her in person that he wants to break up properly so he can confess again. He asks her out and she accepts. These two honestly baffle me. It feels like their plot should have been mostly given to a different couple. Like, if in their second scene they're okay with almost having sex, maybe don't then have them spend their 6 remaining scenes being so awkward they can't even kiss. Like, it's like episode 4 never actually happened. These two are clearly some of the closest across the cast, obviously friends, and Kana even assumed they'd been dating already. So then why are they so incapable of just fucking kissing already? Especially since both make it clear they want to do that, and get close a couple of times, and yet after every instance of the two trying or discussing it, they black out and go right back to square one. They refuse to acknowledge their own characters to instead just do the same song and dance of argue about kissing, almost kiss, over and over. Every scene they're in is so repetitive and they just eat up the runtime. And I just can't help but be baffled at how the two who came the closest to fucking on screen now can't even chill out enough for a single kiss. Hell, I think just changing the topic of their argument from we should kiss to we should try having sex again could have helped a lot. Like, this isn't an adult anime, I don't expect or even want to see the teens have sex, but they set that bar! I don't see why some other couple couldn't be the ones struggling to find the right time for the perfect first kiss, while these two best friends who are already comfortable around each other handle more intimate problems. It's rare to find a show or movie or anything really that tackles the subject of an inexperienced couple learning how to be more intimate with each other, and yet despite taking a solid step into that untouched territory, Tsuredure Children throws that away to instead have the conflict be, we want to kiss but neither of us actually try to initiate that ever. Not only are Kana and Chiaki annoyingly repetitive, refusing to grow despite both characters insisting they want to get closer as a couple, but the majority of their runtime renders their most interesting scene null and void. Takano's forgotten her umbrella, so they share one until her bus stop. Sugawara clearly has a crush on Takano, but she thinks she's nothing special and that no one would like her. He confesses his feelings, but she misunderstands, assuming he's trying to cheer her up, which he lets her believe. Takano's on cleanup duty and Sugawara helps out. He tries to open up about his feelings again, but she thinks he's accusing her of doing a poor job at cleaning and promises to get better at it. Takano's friend has her deliver a love letter to Sugawara, who rejects the confession as he already has a crush on someone else. She tries offering him advice on asking out his crush, and he tells her he's just gonna give up since he'd probably just get friend-zoned. Takano suddenly realizes some feelings she may have in relation to Sugawara. To the audience, it's clear Takano's developed a crush on Sugawara, but as she's never experienced this before, she assumes she may be ill. She goes to the nurse, bumps into Sugawara, takes her temperature, and finds she has no fever. She ends the scene still confused. She still hasn't figured out why she's thinking about Sugawara and why she feels warm. Sugawara tries to avoid looking at her during swim class, but she notices him looking, tries to say hi, but he leaves, making her feel like he was trying to interact with someone else and she got in the way. She tries to apologize for that, but he tells her the truth that it was her he was looking at. She continues to not understand that he's interested in her and that she's got feelings for him. She's watching him play soccer from her band room. She still hasn't figured out she has a crush on him. She and her friend talk to Ayaka about her boyfriend, and finally after spelling it out, Takano catches on that she may have feelings for Sugawara. The two reveal a rumor that he likes her too. The two are still nervous about talking to each other. They both get invited to a beach party the class is holding, using each other's attendance as a selling point. Sugawara is reluctant to go though, since he still thinks she doesn't like him. They bump into each other, and she says the beach wouldn't be fun without him. He says he'll go then. It's tough, because at first I really liked these two. The gag of Takano misunderstanding Sugawara's confessions were really smartly played out, and really funny too. Honestly, if most of their scenes were just that some more, it would still be repetitive, but at least it would be entertaining. But once he gives up and she develops her crush, it's all over. Every scene is Takano talking slow as balls as the two barely interact, and we're stuck with, I just don't know what's wrong with me. It's so boring. And it's double lame because Sugawara starts totally isolating from her. Like, I get that he's nervous and awkward around her, and he's trying to not make her uncomfortable by doing something dumb, and so has decided to just keep his distance. But that's Mondo stupid, though. Out of fear of being friend-zoned, he just drops her as a friend completely. Which means not only are the two not allowed to grow as buddies throughout the rest of their scenes, but also that makes their lack of interactions super dull. These two were funny when they spoke to each other, but instead the majority of the series has the two refuse to speak, and instead it's just Takano repeating the same bullshit over and over again. And really, this is why I say the show drops in quality at episode 6, because despite having a whole bunch of fun characters available to explore interesting comedy based around romance, what you get instead are the same 5 couples doing the same shtick on repeat for 7 episodes. 60% of the show's runtime is dedicated towards the same gags from the same characters. Not only are plenty of interesting ideas or dynamics never utilized, but the show stops being funny too. When every joke is the same, the punchline gets stale. I mean, it's still lighthearted, but the humor takes a backseat to the romantic drama of, let's have these characters do the same thing for the 4th time. I feel like I'm sorta sticking to this point a lot, that I'm kinda just saying the same critique over and over but with different words, which makes sense because that's exactly what the show's like. To stray away from the repetitiveness of Tsuredure children though, I want to also mention how lame it is that there are no same-sex couples in the series. Same-sex marriage may not be legal in Japan, but the idea of homosexuality is not foreign to the country. It's legal to be gay in Japan. If Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune and Utna and Anthony get to have cool adventures, then it's not out of the question for the idea of at least one same-sex couple showing up in a comedy manga about dating. Honestly, it kinda just smacks of the same problems that pervade the rest of Tsuredure children. It's just boring. It's the lowest common denominator. None of the girls are taller than their boyfriend. There are no extreme or interesting body types. These are all the ideas of characters. They are vessels to provide their one rom-com gimmick, and that's it. Despite Tsuredure children's unique premise, all it ends up being is a collection of different tropes to put in your romantic comedy. Rather than using its large cast and primarily comedic tone to set up elaborate, wacky scenarios for the characters to handle in their search for love, it just ends up being a whole bunch of couples taking a single step in their relationship. There are no depths to explore here. This wide collection of possibilities is like a puddle. It covers many different scenarios, but only at their most shallow level. There's nothing to find here in Tsuredure children that can't be found done better in other shows. Wotakoi, My Love Story, Oh Maidens in Your Savage Season, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and Horimiya thrashed Tsuredure children in their quality of content. If you want a story about funny romance, there's no reason to settle for the crumbs of ideas Tsuredure children has to offer, when any one of the shows I listed can give you so much more. More heart, more laughs, and actual reasons to care about the characters. Now, the manga for Tsuredure children is quite a bit longer than the anime. I've heard shaky rumors of the idea that there may be a 2nd season for the show, which I think could be a good thing. I think getting the chance to sort of try again to prove that they can take the interesting starts to characters they have here and actually do something worthwhile with them, whether that be dramatic romance troubles or just good jokes. I want to like Tsuredure children more than I do. Those first 5 episodes were really good. It's annoying that the second half of the series fumbled the ball so hard. If you may be interested in watching Tsuredure children, it's available on Verve and Funimation. I don't like Funimation's website much, but I do think the English dub is worth your time, if only for this character's voice.
Takano, is something wrong? You've been really distracted. Anything you want to talk about? Kamine, your ears must have been burning. The 2 of us were just talking about you. Yay, we're gonna get some juicy details.
I don't care.
The episodes are only 12 minutes long too, so it's not hard to binge through the entire series if you don't have much time on your hands. And if you do choose to watch it, well, I hope you enjoy it. I seem to be in the minority with my complaints here, so there's a good chance you can walk away from the series totally happy.
Jennifer dumped me!
That was your shortest, saddest story yet!
I never bake. Such a terrible housewife.
Bake more, wife.
We're not married. We're just friends, Julian. I
can tell we're not married by the amount you don't bake. Okay, I'm sorry.